So it turns out when I am deprived of my local library for more than a week, upon being allowed to re-enter said local library, I go insane. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My library has not been allowing people to go inside for a couple of months now due to the Omicron variant, and I have been getting my books through curbside pickup only, which is great. They have a wonderful curbside pickup system, but I love me a good half hour aimlessly browsing a library, and my library account is now aware of this because every time I get the opportunity to go back inside the library after some time away, it's like I black out. Now, as you can probably see from the title, I have done overambitious library hauls before. I actually only just finished getting through that last library haul, and now I'm back with once again 11 books. I had 11 books in the last video. I have 11 books this time. I didn't plan that, it just happened. And in the last video, if you haven't seen it, I did the library haul like any book haul, just hold up the book, show you what it is, all that. But at the end of the video, I had kind of a spur of the moment idea, and I went through and gave each book a prediction rating. And the idea was, by the time I had all of them back at the library, I would revisit that video and give myself points based on how close my actual star rating was to the predicted star rating. And that video was a lot of fun, and I've done it again. I may as well just do a 2-video series on this a second time because it was fun. Although I will say I am going to give myself a very lengthy amount of time to put out the second video of this because I have a ton on my current TBR. I don't think I'm going to be able to get to any of these books until April, and in April I have other books that I'm supposed to be reading then too. So this was a bad decision. My only issue is that I don't feel any regret. So how is it a bad decision if I don't feel regret? But I'm telling myself, as long as I finish these books within the year, we're all good. If I need to turn them in and recheck them out, that's fine. I can do that as many times as I need to in order to get the second video up at some point. So let's go ahead and get into the haul. I have a combination of books that were on my TBR already and books that I just saw and was like, hello. And the first of which is The Ladder. This is The Well by Catherine Chanter, which I had never heard of, but it is blurbed by Jessie with a J. This book seems to be a little bit of a gothic, potentially magical realism moment. It's about a family that is leaving the city and they find the well, which is this little farmhouse, I think. And they think that it's great. They're like, this is a good escape because it seems like they're running from some things, which I always love. But when they're there, a drought starts, and for reasons unknown, their property is totally fine. Everybody else is dying, and they have no idea why. Oh, and I'm just now seeing, I only read the first paragraph. I didn't even look at the fact that it goes over here. Apparently there's witches. Oh, okay. I don't often read books about witches, but I'm not opposed because apparently the splendor of the well comes at a terrible price, and I think witchcraft is involved in curses and fun stuff like that. The fact that Jessie Burton blurbed this, it makes sense. Just because this is so much of a risk and there are so many factors that I could not like here, and I've never heard of the author either, I'm gonna predict that this is going to be a 2-star read. And I feel like I should say this now, I'm not somebody that expects every book to be 5 stars. You could very easily be well, why are you even reading it if you think it's gonna be 2 stars? I don't know, but I still want to read it. I don't need to love every book that I read. If I did, that door is haunted. I don't need to love every book that I read. Honestly, if I did, I wouldn't read anymore because I'm incredibly picky. Next up, we have The Madwoman's Ball by Victoria Moss, which is apparently now a major film. I put this on my TBR because I heard Jen Campbell talking about it, and I was intrigued. I think it's historical fiction, yes, but I think there might be a mystery involved. I don't know. It's set in this asylum in Paris, and I think that there's a ball involved. I think it's also relatively literary, it's supposed to be exploring a lot of heavy themes. It's way shorter than I thought it was. I had no idea that this was such a tiny book, and honestly, that's a big reason why I actually picked it up, because I was just hey, if I'm gonna be doing this library haul, I should grab a couple of short ones, and I have been wanting to read this. I'm gonna be bold and give this a 4-star prediction. I think I'm really gonna like it. The fact that it's short makes me excited. I am usually a fan of brevity within most books that I read. Next up, we have My Sweet Girl by Amanda Jayatissa. This is another one that's been on my TBR for a while. It's a relatively new release, and it is a thriller. It's following a woman named Paloma who was adopted from Sri Lanka, and since her adoption, she's lived a very wonderful, privileged life. She's had pretty much everything she could ever want, but when she's 30, she gets cut off from her parents' funds, and it doesn't say why, and she sublets her apartment to somebody that has recently moved to the United States from India. Said person discovers her darkest secret, whatever that means, and before she can kind of make things right, she finds him dead. So I'm really excited about this one. I think it's a super fun premise. I also really like the cover. I know that like faces on thriller covers are a little bit overdone, but I think this one's done right. Like, I like that they put her in like a full face of makeup. I just think that's a good time. I'm gonna say 3 stars for this one. I need to be really careful about putting too much faith in thrillers, because as much as I love reading them, they don't tend to get super great ratings from me, or quite frankly, anybody else. They're just not usually the type of book you rate very high. Next up, we have a short story collection, The Haunting Season. It says it's 8 ghostly tales for long winter nights, and somebody I follow on Goodreads reviewed this book. I don't even remember what they said about it, but they were giving updates as they were reading on like each story, and I was really intrigued. I was interested in this because there are a couple of authors on here that I am interested in reading some of their books, and I thought it would be a good way to kind of get into their style a little bit and try them out. Like, for example, Laura Purcell and Jess Kidd are on here, as well as like Bridget Collins and some people I don't know, but who knows, maybe I could read from them from here and realize that I really vibe with them. So 3 stars is my prediction on this one. That's a pretty safe bet. It's a short story collection. Or wait, no, this is an anthology because there's multiple authors. That's how that works. The next book in this haul I probably didn't need to get. Like, it's on my TBR and I could read it pretty much whenever. It'll be available to me pretty much whenever. But so many people have been reading this one lately, and I just felt like I needed to be in the loop. When the Reckoning Comes by LaTanya McQueen. This was on the Goodreads Choice Awards for the horror category. This is about a woman that is attending this wedding, but it's not just any wedding because it's held at a plantation. And at this plantation, some things start bubbling to the surface, both I think between the main character and the friend that's getting married, because I think they have kind of a iffy past, and then also like the cultural tensions behind, you know, it's a pretty loaded thing to have your wedding at a plantation. Also a very stupid and insensitive thing. I've been hearing that this book has a really good concept, but the execution wasn't all there. So with that in mind, I'm gonna assume it's tough. I'll say 3 stars. I'll give it the benefit of the doubt. The fact that it's short makes me feel better about it. And now we're getting into some books that were not on my TBR, some of which I had never heard of before, and a lot of these are coming from the young adult section. So first off, we have The Looking Glass by Janet McNally. This honestly was kind of a cover grab. Like, that is so gorgeous. There's little butterflies in her hair, and I love it. This may or may not work for me because the synopsis is kind of reading similar to like Bone Gap, which, if you don't know, I tried reading that book in November and just could not get into it at all. Like, just wasn't vibing whatsoever. Granted, part of the problem was I didn't know that Bone Gap was going to be magical realism, and so when the magical realism started happening, I was like, what is going on? This is telling me kind of upfront that this is magical realism, so I think I'm gonna be okay. But it's about 2 sisters, and one of them has gone missing. And the younger sister is just trying to kind of live her life and also like carry on her legacy. They're at kind of this prestigious like ballet academy, which like, ooh, we're hitting so many aesthetic points here. But Julia, the sister that is missing, ends up sending Sylvie, the main girl, a storybook that they used to read when they were kids. And there's all of these kind of cryptic messages inside, and Sylvie realizes that she's starting to like see things, and they're all things that are like loosely tied into fairy tales. And so she's starting to wonder if she's, you know, going nuts, or if like Julia's trying to kind of communicate to her somehow. And I'm really excited to give this one a shot. It's not really the type of thing that I would normally read, but depending on how it is written, because if it is giving me like the atmospheric side of magical realism, I could really love it. But because I've never heard of this author, I've never heard any reviews, I've never really heard anything about this, I'm going to go on the safe side and say I think I'm gonna give this 2 stars. I really have no faith in any book that I pick up, including this one, which is Up from the Sea by Lisa Lowitz. This is another young adult, but this is a little bit more contemporary, I think, with like just a touch of mystery, and also kind of historical fiction. This is also written in prose. It's following a boy who has just survived the 2011 tsunami in Japan. And why did I say it Japan? Japan. You know what I'm talking about. And he's offered the opportunity to go to New York and meet with a bunch of kids who were affected by 9/11. And while there, he decides he's going to try and find his estranged father. It's a pretty sparse synopsis, so I don't totally know what his reasons are for going. Because it's told in prose, which I haven't read in that style in a very long time, but the times that I have, it has worked for me. I'm gonna say 3 stars with this one. I think it should work out okay. For the next book, I had a little bit of a hidden agenda, I suppose. Rules for Vanishing by Kate Alice Marshall has been on my TBR for a while, and I have a resolution to read, I think it's like 5 young adult horror novels, and I'm a little bit stressed about finding enough that I want to read. This one I know is young adult horror, so when I saw it on the shelf, I was like, yes, grab it. This is another disappearing sister, so I'll probably have to space out when I read this one and The Looking Glass. And it sounds like this sister went missing while looking for this like ghost, which like bad idea, hun. And apparently Lucy is haunting this like road in their hometown, and it says every mistake summons new horrors. Vengeful spirits and broken angry creatures are waiting for them to slip, and no one is guaranteed a safe passage. This is a little lengthy for me personally. That worries me just a tad, but because I have realized that I actually have a good track record with young adult horror, not young adult thrillers, young adult horror, I'm going to be bold. I'm going to be bold and say this one's going to be a 4-star. Notice that 5-star predictions are just not really something I do. Going back to the adult shelf and also back into I've never seen this book in my life territory, we have Half by Sharon Harrigan. Everything's in cursive and it's hard to read. I feel like I'm reading my mom's handwriting. This book is about twins that have kind of had a bit of a falling out. I don't know if falling out's the right word, but they've definitely grown apart. I read I'll Give You the Sun earlier this month, and that also focuses on twins that have had like a little scuffle and are no longer as close as they used to be. And I had some issues with I'll Give You the Sun, so I'm looking to maybe its adult counterpart or its adult twin to see if this one maybe works for me a little bit better. Once again, I have never heard of it before. I really like the cover, but I don't necessarily like... These are very petty things. I don't necessarily like the font. I don't really like the feel of the pages, but the cover's cool. The cover's giving thriller, but I don't think that it is a thriller. But these twins are coming back together for their father's funeral, and I actually read the first page while in the library just because I wasn't sure if it was going to work for me. And I really liked the writing from just like that tiny first page. The text is very, very large, so I didn't get a lot of information from that first page. Going off of that, I think I'm gonna say 3 stars, even though this is such a risky book for me to pick up because I have no idea how I'm gonna feel. I don't even fully know what genre it falls in. I just know that Bonnie Jo Campbell thinks that it's bright and inventive, and Jesse Lee Kercheval loved this novel. And Brett Anthony Johnston said it's innovative and, once again, inventive. This is an inventive book. And inventive scares me a little bit. What are you inventing? Into the double digits with book number 10, we have another that I am hoping is young adult horror. The Sisterhood by A.J. Granger. This also could be a thriller though, and that's, dangerous territory. I kind of told myself, no more young adult thrillers. You don't like them. But we're here. This is about yet another sister relationship where one sister goes missing. Clearly, I'm looking to fill like a very particular void in my life. I did chat with my sister for 3 hours yesterday, so maybe that's what's going on here. We have a 16-year-old who was heartbroken when her sister disappeared. I mean, who wouldn't be? Some people might. Some people don't like their sisters. But one day, the main character sees a girl that is lying on the road near her house, and she thinks that it's her sister. And it's not, but she thought she was at first. And this girl claims that she's part of the Sisterhood, and nobody really knows what that means. And she's got all these weird marks on her arms. I think that's leaning horror. That sounds like it's leaning horror. This cover is giving horror. I know it's kind of overdone, but I love me a good cover of like looking up at trees. I think that's just beautiful. This came out in 2018, so it's not like old, but also not new. The cover and like the inside pages have a lot of water damage, which worries me just a tad. Because if you remember, and it's okay if you don't, I don't expect anybody to, but in my last library haul, there was a book that had like clearly somebody put like their coffee cup on the cover because there was this weird like mark stain thing. And I ended up DNFing that book hard. I really did not like it. So part of me is concerned that this is a sign. So I'm gonna predict 2 stars for this one. 1, because I'm concerned it's actually a thriller, and 2, because like there's damage. The book is damaged, and who knows what, you know, the higher powers are trying to tell me about this book. And last but not least, because I had a few too many thrillers in the mix, I picked up Little Family by Ishmael Bey, or Bay. I knew a girl who had that last name and she said it Bay, so I'll say it both ways just in case. And this, I think, is a contemporary. It could be historical fiction. I don't really know. I saw it in a bookstore in Boston a hot minute ago, like over the summer, and I was like, ooh, but I didn't have any money. And it's about these young people that are kind of living on the margins of society. They're living in like an abandoned airplane. Not really sure how that went down, but that's where they live. I don't know what country they're from, but they keep implying that there are a lot of issues going on in their current political landscape, and that's kind of why they're in this airplane hangar, because the outside it's not looking good. We've got like a bookworm that's really street smart, but then we also have kind of like the parent of the group, and then the younger 2 kids. One's really athletic, one's really thoughtful, and then we have the newest member. We don't know anything else about them. But then it looks like some of them kind of decide they want like out of their like family. I'm a little confused on what's going on in this book, but I'm wanting to give it a shot. I'm gonna say 3 stars on this one, which is quite bold because like the fact that I only kind of understand what's happening in the synopsis is risky. But that's just kind of the vibe I'm getting. I'm not going to pick them up off the floor again. My arms are already kind of tired. But those are the 11 books that I grabbed from the library today. Unprompted, unprovoked. I just walked into the library and got 11 books. Again, as I said, it'll probably be a very long time before I actually update on any of these books. And I won't be like vlogging any of them. That is kind of the beauty of this, is that it's just like, it's a complete secret until one day I'm just like, guess what I thought about these 11 different books. I think that's kind of fun. And on that note, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon with another video. I have no idea when I'm gonna put this video up, probably March. I'm filming it in February, just on a whim. But anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon with another video.